The Green Bay Packers didn't just beat Chicago last Sunday, they sent a message that echoed across the entire NFL. On a frozen Lambeau night where every breath hung in the air, this young team absorbed every punch from a red-hot Bears squad and still walked away with a 28-21 victory that felt like a seismic shift. Keyshawn Nixon's game-sealing interception wasn't just a play, it was a declaration. For the first time in years, this rivalry felt less like history repeating and more like a warning shot fired straight into January's heart. What makes this win terrifying isn't the scoreboard, it's how they did it. Jordan Love shook off an early interception that could have shattered a less mature quarterback, then calmly carved up Chicago's defense with 3 touchdown passes like he'd been doing it for a decade. The pressure was suffocating, the crowd was roaring, and yet Green Bay never flinched. They didn't just survive the NFC North's new powerhouse, they climbed back atop it, turning a rivalry game into a statement that has every playoff contender rewatching the tape with fresh unease. But here's what nobody's talking about yet. The real story of that final drive, the one where Chicago had the ball deep in Packers territory with seconds left, starts long before Jordan Love even took the field. It starts in the trenches, where bodies were moving and wills were being broken. Because when the temperature drops and championships are decided, wins like this aren't built on highlight throws alone. They're forged where the snow flies and the pads crack, and that's exactly where Green Bay's secret weapon was waiting to be revealed. If you believe the Packers are built for a January run, hit like right now. It fuels everything we do. Subscribe and tap the bell for every breakdown, every roster move, and the truth behind who's really ready for the playoffs. Chicago came loaded for war. They stacked 9 men at the line, dialed up late blitzes, and aimed to crush Green Bay's rhythm before it started. What they didn't expect was the Packers' offensive line answering every single call with eerie calm. These 5 men didn't just block, they communicated like a single heartbeat, picking up ghost rushers and sliding protections to buy Jordan Love just enough time. When the Bears tried to wear them down in the second half, they didn't buckle. They bent, reset, and kept driving forward like a snowplow in a blizzard. Then there was Josh Jacobs, the human battering ram who turned hopeless third and short situations into fresh chains. His 86 rushing yards on 20 carries won't scream from a stat sheet, but watch the tape. He lowered his shoulder into piles of blue jerseys, churned legs when defenders draped on his back, and punched in that critical 3rd and goal touchdown when Chicago had every ounce of energy focused on stopping him. That drive wasn't pretty, it was brutal. Every carry drained Chicago's defense physically and mentally, turning Lambeau's frozen turf into a torture chamber for anyone daring to stand in Green Bay's path. The numbers expose the truth no one saw coming. Green Bay averaged 6.5 yards per play against a Bears defense that held opponents to 4.6 all season. But here's where it gets scary. While Jacobs and the line were grinding time off the clock, something unexpected was happening downfield. A depth receiver everyone overlooked was quietly waiting for his moment to detonate the entire game plan. And when he finally got his chance, it wasn't just a touchdown, it was a warning flare shot straight into the NFL's night sky. Nobody outside Wisconsin knew Bo Melton's name before kickoff, and by halftime, he'd rewritten the entire script of the game. With seconds ticking down in the second quarter and the Packers clinging to a slim lead, Jordan Love launched a prayer downfield. Melton, a third-year receiver who'd spent most of his career as a special teams contributor, glided past frozen Chicago safeties. The ball dropped perfectly into his hands for a touchdown that didn't just extend the lead. It shattered Chicago's confidence and ignited a Lambeau roar that shook the frozen goalposts. This wasn't a fluke. Chicago's defense had spent weeks suffocating opponents by loading the box and daring quarterbacks to beat press coverage. But Melton's vertical explosion forced a critical dilemma: back off the blitz to respect the deep ball, or keep crushing the pocket and risk giving up more bombs. Suddenly, those aggressive fronts that terrorized quarterbacks all season looked hesitant. Corners widened their cushions, safeties took deeper drops, and the lanes for Josh Jacobs and the short passing game cracked open like thawing ice. One play didn't just win a drive, it exposed a flaw no opponent had yet exploited. What's truly frightening for the rest of the NFL is how easily this offense adapts when defenses overcommit. Melton's emergence wasn't luck. It was proof this system thrives under pressure because it has multiple answers. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. His success only matters because the man throwing him the ball has transformed from a project into a predator. Jordan Love didn't just make that throw. He saw the coverage collapse before the snap, trusted his legs to buy time, and delivered with ice in his veins. And that calm under fire? It's the real reason Green Bay's offense just became every coordinator's nightmare. Early in that Lambeau battle, C.J. Gardner-Johnson jumped a Jordan Love pass for an easy interception. A moment that could have unraveled most young quarterbacks. Instead, Love did something no one expected. He got quieter. No frantic throws, no visible frustration. He simply reset, adjusted his grip in the freezing air, and methodically dissected Chicago's defense like a surgeon. By night's end, he'd shredded a top 10 unit with 17 of 25 completions, 3 touchdowns, and a quarterback rating soaring past 1-20. Numbers that don't just win games. They silence doubters who still saw him as the backup waiting in Aaron Rodgers' shadow. Watch the film closely, and you'll see why coordinators lose sleep. On 3rd and long, Love didn't force shots to Christian Watson. He checked down to Romeo Doubs underneath when coverage clamped down. When Chicago disguised coverages with late safety rotations, he audibled at the line, pointing out matchups like a veteran who'd seen it all before. His feet stayed calm in the pocket even as Bears blitzers crashed through, buying half seconds that turned near sacks into explosive gains. This wasn't just execution, it was chest played at full speed while snowflakes froze on his jersey. What truly separates him now is belief. Love no longer just takes snaps, he commands them. He stares down safeties before the snap, trusts his arm to thread needles in tight windows, and knows exactly where Bo Melton will break off his route when pressure comes. But here's the hidden layer that flips this offense from dangerous to unstoppable. While Love operated with ice in his veins, a missing piece was quietly strapping on his helmet on the sideline. The moment Jaden Reed stepped back onto that frozen field after injury, Chicago's defense didn't just face a quarterback. They faced a nightmare with 4 working arms instead of 2. The moment Jaden Reed stepped back onto Lambeau's frozen turf after missing weeks with injury, Chicago's entire defensive game plan evaporated. Bears linebackers scrambled to adjust to jet motions, corners tripped over assignments on quick slants, and safeties hesitated on deep shots, all because one player returned to the field. Reed didn't just catch passes, he became a human magnet, drawing defenders into chaos the second he shifted across the formation. His very presence forced Chicago to choose between covering Christian Watson deep or containing Reed underneath, and they failed both. This wasn't about flashy stats. Reed's quiet brilliance showed in the details. A 3rd down conversion where he slipped a tackle to gain extra yards, a motion fake that froze a linebacker just long enough for Romeo Doubs to sneak open, and a critical block that sprung Josh Jacobs for a tough 1st down. Green Bay's offense had been good before his return, but with Reed in the slot, it became unpredictable. Defenses can no longer cheat help toward Watson or load the box against the run. Every snap now carries 4 legit threats, and coordinators have no safe answers when Jordan Love has this many weapons humming at once. What makes Reed so lethal is how he amplifies everyone around him. His quick releases off the line give Love easy completions when pressure comes, and his route versatility clears space for Watson's deep speed and Melton's vertical attacks. But here's the reality check nobody wants to face. Even with this offense firing on all cylinders, Green Bay still needed one final stand to seal the win. Because Chicago wasn't some easy mark. They were a rising powerhouse fighting for their own playoff dreams. And they came within inches of stealing the game. That's why what happened next matters more than any highlight. Let's be crystal clear. Chicago didn't just show up at Lambeau. They arrived as one of football's most dangerous surprises. Caleb Williams wasn't some rookie playing scared. He danced away from sacks, rifled throws into impossible windows, and turned broken plays into 1st downs that kept Bears drives alive long after Green Bay thought they'd shut them down. This was a team fresh off stomping contenders, leaning on a ground game that chewed clock and a passing attack featuring Cole Kmet as a matchup nightmare over the middle. They didn't flinch when the Packers punched back. They answered every score like a team built for December football. Chicago's talent wasn't hypothetical. It was visible in every snap. Their offensive line created creases for backs who consistently gained tough yards after contact. When Williams rolled right on that final drive, eyes locked on Cole Kmet slipping toward the end zone, it wasn't desperation. It was exactly what a playoff-ready offense does in crunch time. This wasn't a team hoping for lucky bounces. It was a squad coached by Matt Eberflus to believe they belonged atop the NFC North. Even Tom Brady in the broadcast booth called it a clash of equals, not some mismatch the Packers were supposed to win easily. What makes Green Bay's victory so chilling is the opponent they overcame. Chicago entered this game believing they'd own this rivalry for years, fueled by Williams' swagger and a defense that had suffocated opponents all season. They didn't crumble when down. They pushed harder, driving into Packers territory with seconds left and the division on the line. That's when the real test came. Not for the offense that had carried Green Bay all night, but for a defense running on fumes after Chicago dominated time of possession. Because in that final moment, with the season hanging on one throw, a Packers defender did something that proved this team's heart runs deeper than anyone realized. Lambeau Field held its breath with 14 seconds left. Chicago ball, first and goal at the 10-yard line, the NFC North crown hanging on one throw. Caleb Williams rolled right under the frozen lights, eyes locking on Cole Kmet breaking toward the corner of the end zone. The Packers' defense had been on the field for nearly 8 straight minutes, legs burning from chasing Chicago's explosive offense all second half. In that moment, every fan knew. One clean throw, and the Bears steal the division. One mistake, and Green Bay's season unravels. Keyshawn Nixon saw it before anyone else did. As Williams cocked his arm, Nixon, playing like a man possessed, slid underneath the root like he'd lived this exact scenario in his dreams. His hands clamped the ball at its highest point, sealing the win with an interception that wasn't just perfect timing. It was ice-cold belief. This wasn't a fluke play from a depth defender. It was the culmination of a unit that refused to break when exhaustion should have owned them. While other teams fade in December's chill, Green Bay's defense stared down a future superstar quarterback and stole victory from his fingertips. That single snap exposes why this Packers team terrifies the NFL. They don't just win when the offense shines. They win when the clock bleeds out and the pressure crushes ordinary teams. But here's what that final stand truly unlocked. A path not just to the playoffs, but to the top seed in the entire NFC. Because when you survive a war like this against a rising giant like Chicago, you stop being a surprise contender. You become the team everyone else must measure themselves against. And in a conference where January belongs to the coldest-blooded squads, Green Bay just proved they're built for the storm. That Lambeau victory wasn't just about reclaiming the NFC North, it rewrote Green Bay's entire season trajectory overnight. With this win, the Packers didn't just hold off Chicago, they seized control of their playoff destiny, positioning themselves to host January football under those frozen lights where they've become nearly unbeatable. Every team in the conference now faces a brutal truth. Slowing down this offense means solving a puzzle with no weak pieces. Jordan Love's calm and chaos, Christian Watson's deep strike threat, Jaden Reed's slot mastery, Josh Jacobs' short yardage dominance, and Keyshawn Nixon's game-winning instincts form a complete package built specifically for cold weather warfare when seasons are decided. The rest of the NFL will dissect this tape searching for flaws, and find none. Defensive coordinators can't just drop 8 into coverage when Jacobs punishes light boxes. They can't blitz freely when Love exploits single high safety shells with precision. They can't ignore Reed's motion without freeing Watson or Melton downfield. This isn't a one-game surge. It's a calculated identity forged through adversity. And with the conference's toughest remaining schedule, including rematches against Detroit and Minnesota, the Packers aren't just chasing a division title. They're sending a message that Arizona's Super Bowl stage might just have a familiar green and gold guest this winter. What happens next defines legacies. Will this young core crumble under the weight of expectations? Or will they keep answering every punch like they did against Chicago? One thing's certain, when the playoffs arrive and the temperature drops, no quarterback wants to face Jordan Love. On a frozen field with weapons that can kill you in 3 different ways before halftime. If you believe this Packers team is built for a championship run, smash that like button. It pushes us to break down their playoff path faster. Subscribe and tap the bell for every roster move, every injury update, and the raw truth about who stands between Green Bay and a title no one saw coming.